listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Chris in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, TV shows, games, books, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 650, where now that we've rescheduled twice, we're ready to break down episodes 3 and 4 of Maul Shadow Lord. So apologies for this coming out later than we anticipated, but it's two episodes that honestly I felt like were better than the first two, and I think that's probably the natural course of how you would expect this to go. It grabs you, kind of lets off on the gas pedal, and it feels like at this point it's just going to be full throttle now that the Empire's shown up. So with me, of course, is Chris. Chris, welcome back to the show as always. How's it going, man? How you feeling?
Oh, I'm doing good. Better than you, but I'm doing good. But no, I agree with you 100%. I thought these episode 3 and 4, I would say, were as close to perfect Lucasfilm animation as I've ever seen. It's like a 9.95 out of 10. I mean, it was very good. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I can't wait to break it down.
Yeah, cool. And we'll do all that here in a second. But Chris is going to say hello and thank you to some very special friends and folks of ours.
Right. We want to every time we come here and we make this content for you. We want to thank our Patreon subscribers, starting with their now part of the tribe members. We added William B last week, but they also include Alex, Danny, Dante, Daz. I've got a Brad feeling, Jackson, Jacob, Josh, Mike Borda. Can't forget Paisley, Rita Reborn, Sharkman Dan, Uncle Leon, and Will I Am. And then, of course, we have our Delusions of Grandeur members. Now this is Rod Racing and Rob.
Yep. And Steve.
Steve,
yep. Can't forget Steve. Thank you guys so much for all the patronage and support and all the kind wishes also on Patreon last couple days or so. So, and what do we got out here? What do we got coming up for
We got coming up. This next show on Sunday night is going to be a Patreon exclusive, and we're going to break down some of the older Maul comics that were released prior to anything that has to do with Maul Shadow Lord or Shadow of Maul. We're going to break down some of those comics and talk about them like they haven't been talked about before. So we're going to have that on Sunday show. Again, that's a Patreon exclusive. Then we're going to be back Monday night. Hopefully the health gods will shine on us and allow us to be healthy. And yes, and we'll talk about episodes 5 and 6 for Maul Shadow Lord Monday night. We'll break those episodes down. Another thing that I want to explain that we're going to start coming up to, and I'm actually wearing a shirt to kind of represent this, is we're going to start putting together a Road to Celebration series as we get closer to where a lot of these milestones for Star Wars Celebration Los Angeles are going to start coming out. So look for those episodes in the future. If you want more information about Star Wars Celebration, you want to go, how to get tickets, if you want to see panels, how does that work? You want to get photo ops and autographs. How does that work? Merchandise, exclusives. We're going to break that all down in that series. Again, it's the Road to Celebration series, and that's coming soon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, having those guys back on the show. We did a From a Certain Point of View show with Joel and a number of Rods on there. I can't remember who. It might have been just those two guys and then you and me. But we had a great time doing that. And this is going to be so much fun because all of us are going to Celebration next year. And I know for some folks, they're always their first time. And for some folks, it's like, hey, I went the first time, but it was such a whirlwind that I never did this or I didn't know how to do that. And so having this series of episodes that kind of leads up to that, I think is going to be a lot of fun and kind of super important if, for folks that didn't necessarily have all the details going into past Celebration. So can look forward to that too. Okay, I think that's all the business. Let's get into the breakdown. I know it's been a few days and you've probably heard a lot of things about it. So I don't know we have anything new to offer outside of our own personal opinions and our takes on some of this stuff. But I guess I would say we were going to start with non-spoilers, but I mean, we're 2 days out, so screw it. Let's just get into like
jump
the
into
breakdown.
it. Yeah, if you haven't watched it by now, it's on you.
Yeah. So what? Give me your opening thoughts about it, and it can be spoilerish. Like, what did you like about the show? What did you enjoy with these 2 episodes?
So with episode 3, what I liked about is the way that Maul has begun the manipulation of Devon. In typical Maul fashion, tried to utilize some of her own feelings to essentially manipulate her to join his cause. Typical Maul. We saw the same thing with Ezra in Rebels. We saw it with Ahsoka. Yeah, it's he's trying to do the same thing. Now, what I like about it, and I don't know if this is just my interpretation or that's actually part of the story, is that Devin seems to be like flip-flopping. It's like she understands at times where Maul is coming from and maybe thinks he's making some sense, but then she's like, no, it's not right. I shouldn't do this. So that makes it a little bit interesting because normally you kind of see a path. Either it's going to be, yeah, I'm going to kind of follow this way, or I'm not. But she keeps flip flopping. But at least from my opinion, that's what I think I see from her. So I'm really enjoying that dynamic there. We also get to see a little bit of the relationship between Brander Lawson and Two Boots. Now, it's not all sun and roses. Then we learned that in these next 2 episodes. They do butt heads, even though technically Two Boots is his droid, should be working for him. He has his own ideas, and he wants to follow everything by the book. And when you're in law enforcement, that's what you're supposed to do. But sometimes to get the justice that you need, you have to kind of blur that line. And I think that Two Boots is not about that. And we run into a couple of conflicts there between Lawson and Two Boots. And I like that dynamic too. We also, speaking of Lawson, we also get to see a little bit of his relationship with his son, which actually kind of touched me a little bit because, I have a son, and I know that there were times where I wasn't able to attend something that my son was doing because I had to work.
Oh yeah,
It wasn't as dramatic as like, oh, I'm there and now I have to go. It's like I couldn't be there to begin with. So with that, I kind of felt for loss, and that actually kind of got me there. But it's again, it's good to see their dynamic, and just it's a typical trope that you see in a lot of TV shows and movies and whatnot. The dynamic between the busy father and the longing son. That's what we kind of have here. But it was good to see that kind of expand a little bit. So yeah, those are my big takeaways. Obviously, the action was A+. Not just the action, but the animation around the action, A+. I again, this is easily, when they do the action sequences, it's easily the best animation that Lucasfilm Animation has ever done. And especially when there's lightsaber fights, the little mini fight between Devin and Maul at the beginning of episode 3, beautiful. Even though it was just a red hue across the screen and bright red lightsabers for the most part, it was beautiful. And then don't get me started on the fight between Maul, Devin, and Master Daki, Uncle Daki, actually.
Uncle Daki.
That was amazing. And I thought that what I expected is I was expecting to see that like crackled blur like you see with Kylo Ren's lightsaber, only with Maul's, but then we're going to see the nice, fine, clean blue blur from Daki's lightsaber and Devin's lightsaber. But no, they were all crackling all over the place, and it looked amazing. I thought it was amazing. And again, one of the things that I've said about this and what I've seen from all the way back to a year ago at Star Wars Celebration Japan, and now, is how the choreography in the lightsaber duels are a lot smoother. It's not just chop and hack. It's like a real life, like you're watching a duel. And that's one of my detractions from the other Lucasfilm Animation works, is that the lightsaber fights were very choppy and stop and go. These have a flow to them, like you're really watching real people. And that's what I really, really dug about the animation. But also the animation overall, beautiful, impeccable, A+ for Lucasfilm Animation.
Yeah.
They're doing a great job here.
Yeah. No, it's all agree with all the sentiments, and I'll probably stitch my comments and feedback into as we break down the episode a little bit more here. But yeah, I mean, thematically, the two things that really I've always said about Star Wars is that it has to be rooted in family, because Star Wars has always been about family, right? Going back to the Skywalkers, Luke and his father. And it's really neat that they found a way to kind of incorporate that into the show. Now, to what extent, we don't know. But, we knew from the very first episode that Riley was going to play a part in this in some way. He wasn't just going to be a background character that, hey, Dad, going to school, leaves, and that's it. We anticipated that we were going to get more of it, and certainly we are. We're getting more of that family dynamic, and what does it mean to be a father that can't always be there, right? Certainly tropey, but certainly hits home too for a lot of us, for people that work a lot and unfortunately can't be there. So that stuff, I'm with you 100%. Like, it really hit me with that. And I'm glad that it was kind of rooted in that family piece. I mean, the only other time that I can think of, and I could be wrong, is in Skeleton Crew with like Wim and his dad.
His dad.
It felt like his dad was always busy and working stuff, doing the accounting stuff. But that was the only other time that we've had something like that. But so it's cool that we're seeing that. And then thematically, we're back to this, and it's another constant in Star Wars of, identity. Who am I? Who are we now? Especially when some crazy galactic event has happened, like the transfer of power from the Republic over to the Empire. Everybody's doubting themselves. Everybody's having to remake themselves. We've seen this in the Bad Batch. We've seen it in the Clone Wars. We've seen it in the Ahsoka series. I mean, it really has been transformational for a lot of people, and we're seeing different people go through it. Not only Maul, but we've got Rook, we've got the Crime Lords, we've got the Devin, of course, we've got Daki. I mean, they're all having to reevaluate who they are and what their role is in the galaxy, and just their intent and what drives them and what keeps them safe. And it's just really neat that we're getting to see all that. So on those 2 points alone, it feels very Star Warsy, right? Outside of all the lightsaber fights and everything else, it just feels natural that we would be getting a show like this. So
yeah, and you spoke about, like, from people's perspective, is like, we look at Daki and what he's trying to do, and he's doing exactly what most of the other Jedi that survived Order 66 they're doing at the time of the Empire, and that's keeping a low profile and keeping their head down.
Yeah,
and that just goes to show that that type of behavior, when the Jedi are not on top and when they are in a bad way, that's what they do, is they put their head down, they try to blend in with society, try not to bring attention to them so that they don't get hunted. And or in some cases they feel that that's what's needed, the space is needed to aid whatever's going to come to try to help restore balance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was, that is also rooted in Star Wars Jedi lore and whatnot, just to say, yeah, Daki is all about keeping your head down, low profile, don't steal anything, don't, cause a scene. We don't want the Empire. And it didn't work out for him.
Yeah. Right. Okay, real quick, One Up versus CPU. I saw this today too. It says, he said, they announced that the first episode got 4.1 million views in a week, which I think was, if I'm not record, it was a record of some sort. I don't remember the context of it.
I think it's a record for Disney Plus. I think I don't know if it's an all-time streaming record, but I think it's a record for Disney Plus.
Okay. Yeah, I think Percy Jackson was up there with some of their records before. So pretty cool if it did blow that out of the water, or if it beat it at least. Okay, but let's get into the breakdown. We kind of, and we talked about this in the first breakdown, that this was going to be more of a serialized series and more than episodic. And sure enough, I mean, we pick up literally where we left off, like after she had pushed off, freed herself, if you will. So she's freed herself. I like the fact that Vario was upset that he's still in his prison and she's not.
Right.
When Rook walks up to her and just kind of looks at her, she kind of gives her the Boba Fett nod of like, well, no, she kind of leans to the side, or points to the side like, hey, he's over there waiting for you. But I don't think, Devin wasn't expecting that. And that's all part of, the game that Maul is playing and trying to earn her trust so that he can manipulate her and switch her over, which we'll see in a little bit. I enjoyed the little Cassius T scene that we had. I know that was kind of shared during one of the breakdowns or the trailers, but back to the roots and the influence of Japanese culture that somebody like Maul, right? Maul, the devil himself, is partaking in a ceremonial tea. There's whatever, and it's, I don't know if that's a Jedi thing, that's a Maul thing, maybe it's a Dathomirian thing. I don't know where he got that or whatever. It doesn't matter, but I love the fact that it was cool. It was a kind of hark back to some of that stuff. And then we get into Maul's perspective, right? He's sitting down with her. He tells her, that, hey, you're starting to see things in new perspective. I mean, he's already planting that seed just with that with that little piece. He's saying something that she probably has already felt and has thought herself, but was unwilling to say it or didn't want to admit that she was starting to see the world in a different light now that things have transpired the way they have. He tries to be like sympathetic about her arm and, how's it healing kind of thing. And I believe him. Like, I feel like he probably is, but it's the same thing like Vader when Palpatine went to go help Vader, he wasn't doing it out of the kindness of his heart. That was his weapon, right? He was going to rebuild his weapon. So similar to that in that sense, it wasn't because of the goodness of his kind heart that he was doing that. But he says that she's still capable of being the person that she thinks he is. And that he can be that person. So, don't cross him. He's still that person, even though, on the outside, maybe some things have changed. And then he kind of gets into what we knew was going to happen. He starts trying to convince her that, you and I are kind of both the same person and we're kind of going through the same things. We had our destinies taken us from the Empire. I was going to be the next first person, in line, or I was going to be the next Sith Lord, and you were going to be a Jedi Knight and maybe a Master at some point. And the Empire came in and took both of those things away from us, and now we're kind of left stranded trying to make out who we're going to be from this point on. And I love the way, and I'll get your thoughts on this, but the way that scene ended with Devin pulling that lightsaber to her and igniting it, and seeing her with the red light, which I love. We used it for the cover art for our episode here. But great shot, and his last parting line of "That's good, I can work with that, but you won't like it" was kind of maybe a foreshadowing what was about to come in the next scene, which gives us our title, by the way. For Whispers in the Night was a great and perfect title for what's going to happen here when he's kind of playing mind games with her. But I guess your thoughts on all that before we get into the police headquarters and catching it with Brander.
Oh, yeah, that was, for me, that was perfect. I thought the whole setup of, hey, you can escape whenever you want to, but then, I'm not gonna let you just walk out, and then, the way that he tries to manipulate her is typical Maul manipulation. And like I said, you could kind of tell, not just in her words, but in the facial features, which, again, bravo, Lucasfilm Animation, even back to Clone Wars, they're able to have those CG characters emote like they were real people. You can kind of feel what they're thinking. I thought that whole scene was perfect. I thought the dialogue was spot on, probably some of the best writing in Lucasfilm Animation history. I thought the way Maul interacted with Devin, the way Devin would react back and strike back to some of Maul's words, I thought it was perfect. So that was a number one for me. I really enjoyed that particular scene.
Yeah. And then we go over to the police headquarters, and Brander Lawson, he mentions one little thing. He talks about, I think it's Two Boots that brings up his quote deviant contacts, and then they don't linger on it. We had said from the comic that we had gathered that he may not play by what we know now for a fact. He doesn't play by the rule book all the time. Right. I don't know that I suspected that he would be somebody that had deviant contacts. And I don't know how far they're going to take that. And I don't want to read too much into that particular line outside of it just painting a picture of Lawson as somebody who's not 100% pure, maybe not like Two Boots, who's kind of playing it by the book. But I started to wonder too, like how much of what we're seeing from Vario is, did Vario and Lawson work together, or does he keep anybody in his pocket? Right? Because if there's anybody and this is my conspiracy theories now, and I don't really want to get into it, but if there's anyone out there that is, working with the police and working with Lawson, I suspect it'd be somebody like Vario. But either way, he mentions that he does have deviant contacts, that Two Boots had a good night's sleep. He didn't. And He mentions that he's missing his son's game, and you can see it on Lawson's face, which again, credit to the animation because he looked like devastated, like crap. I totally forgot about that. And be guilty, been there before.
Yep.
Yeah, but he says, unlike you, I'm rested and enjoy potentially thankless tasks. So I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah, for me, keep in mind he is a ex bounty hunter.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's made some nefarious contacts over his years as a bounty hunter that he probably goes back to in his days as a, officer of the law. But it also goes back to the trope of, your cop movies, cop dramas. There's always a cop that has an in some type of criminal inner circle to get info, or they know someone that knows the intel, and they're a little shady, and that's what they use for intel. I don't know if what Two Boots is referring to is the contacts that he made while he was a bounty hunter, or the contacts that he has acquired being a officer of the law. I'm curious to see what he refers. When he talks about the deviant connections, like, okay, meaning what the people now, or the people that knew when you were a bounty hunter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So maybe like, or he could have been referring to I forgot her name now, the girl that was in the third episode or second episode.
Yeah, I forgot her name. Like, wasn't it I don't know. I do know though that the actress that voices that character is the mother of the actress that voices Devin.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I just learned that yesterday. Yeah. I just learned that yesterday.
But he could have been speaking about her.
Yeah. Could be.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. We get to the next part, and this was probably the highlight for me in both episodes. Like I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm all for a good saber fight, and we got a certainly good one here in the next episode. But for me, this was really kind of like the cool part of this, because we got to hear Maul manipulate her and try to get under her skin, get in her head, and using a lot of the same tactics that we've seen Palpatine use and other Sith Lords use. So, it's probably passed down through generations. But I want to kind of go through these lines of what he was saying to her, and then just kind of call out the emotion that he was trying to tickle or tease out with her. When he says, how does it feel to hold a lightsaber again? Trying to play into power, right? You have a lightsaber again, you're powerful. Right. I suspect you've had to keep yourself hidden for some time, shaming her. Like you can't be out there in the open, you've got to hide. And that's probably, frustrating her. The next one, he says, even armed, your instinct is to run. So playing into her fear, or at least, kind of saying that she is fearful and she's running instead of standing up. He says, how disappointing, talking about disappointment and failure, of course. He talks about how she's untested, even though she has, that he's trying to play up now the potential that she possibly could have. He says, you were promised the future that was taken from you too early. Plays directly into the attachment piece of it. Even though they're not supposed to have attachments, he's making her think, like, I had an attachment. I was supposed to do something, and that was taken from me, right? He mentions that she was denied training, the full training that she needed. There's loss associated with that. So he's playing into the loss part of it all. Just three more. He says, you crave that unfulfilled destiny. So desire, right? He's almost, even though destiny should be destiny and there's nothing you can do about it, the way he pitches that is more of a desire, more of an emotional thing rather than just fate or the will of the Force. He says, your frustration betrays you. And at this point, you can kind of see her, like, as this whole scene kind of goes on, her facial expressions go from, scared to angry. I mean, we go through all of the fear and, all the stuff that Yoda talks about to the very end, where she's finally just angry. And it culminates with, he says, but I see your potential. Wouldn't your master be impressed if you killed me? So giving her that sense of pride that she can do something, right, that her master would be proud of, even though that's not probably anything the master would necessarily be proud of. He's trying to play it up as such. So, I mean, all those lines, when you go back and watch it and you think about all those emotions that she's going through and how he's kind of pulling strings to get these emotions to come out of her, culminates, of course, with her being completely angry and frustrated and mad and taking that first step down the dark side, if you will, by the end of that scene.
Yeah, he completely plays with her emotions there, plays with every bit of her emotions when it comes to loss. And it's all about, the loss of what she should have been, you know, uh, with the Jedi Order gone, the ability for her to become a full-fledged Jedi Knight, to become a defender of the galaxy, a keeper of the peace as the Jedi were. She's not going to have that opportunity. And, he plays on that perfectly.
Yeah.
And again, these scenes in this episode, the scenes between Devin and Maul are written perfect. I don't think any change in the dialogue and anything could have made it better. I think they hit the mark there. It was perfect. The also I give credit to Sam Witwer, and again I don't remember the young lady's name who voices Devin, and I don't know if they are in the same room when they're recording the lines, but their banter, the way they work back and forth, the chemistry that they have is great. I think that they are working very well together, and that just adds to the tension, and it makes those scenes that much more powerful because they have that chemistry. So you have the writing, you have the chemistry, you have great voice actors, you have great animation. It made it for an amazing scene.
Yeah. Yeah. This was really good stuff from Lucasfilm Anime. The lighting, we didn't even talk about the
Oh
lighting
yeah,
that much, right?
no,
But
everything, yeah,
everything was working in that scene.
definitely.
Okay, so we go to eventually, and I put Maul's proposition above. So this is because it was a continuation of it, although it happens a little bit later. I just stuck it up here so we could just talk about it now. But eventually, this all ends with telling Devin that he can train her, that he can help her reach her full potential, and that he needs to help her fight a common enemy, right? So this is playing into the, hey, we have the same enemy here, and so therefore we should partner up. He brings up Order 66. He talks about the Jedi Hunters and whether she's prepared. I don't even know how much she knows about the Jedi Hunters, right? She may not even know about the Inquisitors because they've booked it and left and have been on this planet now, allegedly for a while, and their Empire's not here. So the Inquisitors haven't been here yet. So she has no idea. And so in some regards, he's absolutely right. I mean, he's telling her, look, you're not prepared for what's about to come. Docky may do okay. I have a feeling Docky's going to die to one of the Inquisitors. Docky may be fine, but you have no clue, and you're going to need training. You need to be prepared for what's about to come, and this is when finally Devin escapes. So, anything on that before we kind of get back into Vario and the Pikes and everything that's going on with it?
No, the one thing I want to say, I thought it was the perfect send off to end this scene in this episode between these two is where she didn't escape. He lets her go.
Yeah.
He takes the lightsaber back and walks away, lets her go. And again, it's all part of his plan for the manipulation of Devin to try to essentially bring her to his side.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
All right, so let's go to the. So while that's all going on, Vario is then asked for about the next Pike's shipment. He's excited because he's got worth. He feels like he's got value, and they're not going to go ahead and just kill him off. So he's liking all this. Two Boots and Officer Reb are in search for the Pike ship that recently entered. They learned that Mog Krim is looking to get even for what he's done to what they've done to his men. And he's blaming Vario for all of this. So this gets into the whole kind of, all the intricacies and stuff that's going on with all of them, the crime lords. And then Two Boots and Reb take those Pikes into custody, but not before Rook Cass shows up, blows up, launches the missiles at them, and then Two Boots goes after them in this little short escape as they're trying to get away. I like that little action sequence too, because you got to see Two Boots wasn't just a pair of boots and a witty charm. He was actually pretty good. Like he can actually hold his own, keep up, and all that. So, so that was cool. I like to see that he got to do a little bit of there, and we'll get into the stadium here thing. But I don't know, was that surprising for you too? I guess as far as Two Boots goes.
No. I mean, I always thought that Two Boots could hold his own, especially after what we saw him do in the comic book. Right? I always knew that Two Boots would be able to hold his own. But as we're going to learn, it's not. Yes, he can do that, but he is by the book, and he will, he's going to follow that, regardless of his loyalty to anyone else.
Yeah.
And that's, you don't see that too much in droids. the only other two droids where I can see them not giving a crap and doing what they think is right is R2D2 and Chopper.
Mhm.
You know, maybe K2SO, but if I, just thinking off the top of my head is like R2D2 and Chopper. They're going to do what they think is right, and they're not necessarily going to listen to the ones that are their master or the ones in charge.
Yeah, you might throw BB-8 in there as well. I think it depends on what he's fighting for.
Yep.
Okay, so we go to the Botekin Stadium where Lawson shows up there. He's showing up to see Riley's game that he was about to miss, and Riley heads out to the pitch, and he's like, oh, no, I'm going to stay back here where the action is. I don't,
Albert,
play off the fact that he showed up late.
We're in America. It's the field.
Oh, sorry. Pitch, field, whatever. I'm a soccer guy.
Yeah. I'm just joking with you, man. I
was like, oh, great. I'm on mute. No, it wasn't that. It wasn't that. But yeah, so he heads out there, and then right when Riley heads out, that's when Donkey shows up. I like his little, no harm, kind of echoing Yoda saying, no harm there, if anybody catch that. Donkey makes a case then for Devin being a victim of circumstance. So he's still playing into, very much similar to what happened when she was arrested, was like, hey, she's young, she made a mistake. He's doing the same thing with Devin, painting it as though, look, hey, this is, she's a victim of circumstance. And in some ways, like, I do feel like he's truly trying to get her out of prison and not have her go through all that. But at the same time, he definitely doesn't want that to happen because he doesn't want to draw additional attention to themselves having been arrested. Right. So part of it is, kind of just self-preservation and making sure that they do continue to stay low. But Donkey mentions that, hey, I'm still looking for her as well. He tells Lawson that the person that he's after, Maul, is something he's never dealt with before. So, again, we talked about whether or not Lawson knew Maul before the series started. I thought it was going to be that was the case until we got into the comic book, and it's starting to trend that doesn't look to be the case. Like, he may just be a shadow. He may be an enigma that he's been chasing, kind of like a Kaiser Soche, if you will, right? But he's never actually run into him, so he's not really aware. I mean, he saw the lightsaber, and he knows that he's got some familiarity with what happened during the Clone Wars. But Donkey's 100% right. Like, this is like the Terminator walking into the police station. They're just not going to be prepared, and he's trying to be level with him and say, look, you guys aren't ready for what's about to come. If you do find him. They both affirm that they don't want the Empire here. So they both agree, look, I don't want the Empire here because we're on the run, and you don't want the Empire here because they're just going to take over your jurisdiction and the whole planet. Life's going to change for everybody. I don't know if that's a bad thing. But and then Lawson, he gets a call about the incident that 2B was a part of. And so then he's got to run and book it out of there. And of course, he leaves his son's match. And then we get that heartbreaking moment where you hear people cheering his name that he just scored, and they're cheering his name, Riley, and he's looking over, and of course Dad's not there, and so we'll see where that goes and how much of an impact that has on Riley a little bit later. But yeah, any thoughts on that scene there?
No, that was perfect. Like you did the analogy between Docky and Yoda, and I thought Docky really channeled his inner Yoda the way that he was talking to Lawson, and essentially is saying, hey, you're not going to be able to handle what's coming. And of course, no one wants to hear that. They want to think that they can handle it. They don't know. He doesn't know what Maul is. All he knows is that he's this dangerous guy who happens to have a laser sword.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know the history and what Docky knows about Maul. So he's just going to look at him as just maybe a higher level of criminal that's going to be a little bit more difficult to take down. I'm sure being a bounty hunter, he's seen some of those types of individuals who are very good at maybe hand-to-hand combat, good with weapons. So he might be maybe a little overconfident, and we will see, in the next episode, just how overconfident he becomes. And we'll talk about that when we get there.
Yep. So Lawson heads over, he picks up 2B and learns that, that he was right, being that was the Shadow Collective that was behind all of this, or continues to be behind all of this. Mm-hmm. They head over to where the Pikes were headed. 2B wants to call the Empire again. Lawson says no. So we see them again butting heads there, like we mentioned. And then he mentions Lawson's wife. We mentioned that Lawson's wife works for the Empire. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. So I'm going to say this. I'm now coming down from your Razor Crest theory.
Yeah.
I don't think Maul's after his son. He's gonna use. I still think he'll probably use him in some fashion, but he has a pawn to play that affects both sides. You know, if the mom works for the Empire, that's that side he can control when he controls Riley, if that's how the story's going to go, and then not to mention Brander himself. So that's what I think now. Now he will play
leverage.
yeah, he's going to use Riley as leverage, not necessarily he's a good athlete at this sport. The force must be with him. I think it's going to be now he's going to use Riley as leverage because now he has a piece on both sides for that.
Yeah, I can see that. It makes sense too. Yeah, 2B, find that scene ends with 2B kind of apologizing for overstepping his authority, sort of. Like, if you read between the lines, and we know this because of what happens when he's like, I'm sorry for overstepping your authority, he kind of emphasizes your authority. So if you can't do it, then I'll just go above your head kind of thing, which is exactly what happens here a little bit. I just want to throw something out there. Rob said the whole law enforcement story arc is a great addition to Star Wars universe. It helps to portray the grandeur of Maul and the Jedi when you ground the rest of the universe with real characters. Yeah, and that's 100% right. Like everything that we see there coming out of there, we've seen it before, and it can be tropey, but it grounds a series similar to what we get with like Andor and some of the other stuff that we've had out there.
Well, you take. First of all, I agree with my Star Wars guys. It's always if we've only seen the movies, right? It's space battles, laser sword battles, blaster battles between the Empire or the First Order and whomever, Resistance, Rebels. It's never what's happening in society or in a daily life. That's why you said it. Andor is a great example of having Star Wars in a scenario where it's surrounding day-to-day life. Skeleton Crew, even though the majority of the show, the kids are stranded on a ship.
Yeah,
it begins in the suburbia, and how the universe reacts to them in suburbia. And then now we have here where we have this ex Sith Lord who's trying to be a crime boss again, and here we are in this Gotham City metropolis looking place, planet, and we're dealing with law enforcement, which I don't think we've really ever seen before. I know there were a couple episodes, I believe, Clone Wars, where they had the police droids, but other than that, we haven't seen like flat out policemen in Star Wars, I don't think, until this show. So I think I agree with my Star Wars guys that when you have a show, a Star Wars project where it's grounded in some sort of reality, at least reality for the Star Wars galaxy, he's right. It makes everything else, the mystical part of it, look that much more grand.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, the police headquarters. We go back to the police headquarters. I think that's where we are. No, sorry, I jumped ahead. So we're going back to Maul's headquarters, and it's a really quick scene where Rook tells Vario that he's going to say what they want him to say. So they're going to go record a holo of him and do that sort of thing. He does call Marg Krim via holo. He apologizes for what happened on Janix. He blames Nicodemus's men for the incident, right? Outright blames them, and then says, "Look, I want to personally deliver a message to you, give you the lost payments, and then certainly make up for the value of the cargo that was lost to him." Right? A good gesture of good faith kind of thing. This is, of course, all plays into Maul's plan. Back to the police headquarters now, where Chief Kleiss tells Lawson that 2B went and told her that they needed to call the Empire. So that was kind of shocking. Again, like I get that he's by the book, but I wasn't anticipating that he would go over his head and go directly to the police chief and say, "Hey, we need to call the Empire. Things are getting out of hand." And he's not wrong. Like the more you think about it, like it's he's doing the right thing, but it's all a matter of a certain point of view, I guess.
Certain point of view, exactly.
Yep.
And what's good about that is that the police chief is kind of sort of agrees with Lawson. So she essentially says no hey, don't contact the Empire, and then sticks 2 boots behind a desk, and he becomes a desk jockey
Yeah.
in the police headquarters. But that doesn't help too much. I don't think.
Yeah. And then we get the last part of the scene here, last part of this episode, where we get Devin versus Maul. Maul finally stops her from leaving, primarily because she's still holding his lightsaber, right? Half of his lightsaber. And then she says she's not afraid of him. I don't know that I believed her then, but it's just, what Jedi are probably trained to say to themselves anyways. He says, it's not that you're afraid, it's that you're weak, which I think is a great line. They used it today, I think, in some of the social media posts that they were posting to get people to kind of to look at it. But it's a great line the way that's written. They end up fighting. Great fight scene again. Not take anything away from it. But she's using half of his lightsaber the entire time, and then he pulls that back. It's funny too because he's like fighting her with one hand behind his back the entire time. So similar with was it Vader in the or not the Acolyte in the Kenobi series.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Kenobi series where he was fighting her with one arm behind his back or with one hand. That was really neat. So we got to see him do the same thing. And that's got to be frustrating to her, right? To see somebody essentially mocking, playing with her,
right?
Knowing that he's got the best of her and she's sitting there struggling, putting everything she's got into it. That's got to be certainly weighing on her emotions.
Yep.
And then, she uses, she's most of her attacks, you can tell, you can just see it all over her face. Again, kudos to the animation, but you can see much of the way she attacks is just pure anger and frustration and all those emotions that he was toking earlier on in the first set of dialogue. It all kind of surfaces and just gets vomited out here, and you can see it all over her face. Eventually, she becomes angry when she finally pounds her fist. So he's done exactly what he wanted to do, got her to cross over to the dark side, or at least take that first path, at least into the anger part of it. And made her powerful, right? You got to see she kind of came back and had him back up a little bit. He was on he still got one hand behind his back, but she had him flat-footed there for a little bit. She says he says your life is in ruins. She's anxious. She gets so angry that she's able to actually force push Maul. Now, I don't know how much of that was Maul letting her, right? Because, in Star Wars, to force push somebody, you have to have a pretty big upper hand. It's not, otherwise Jedi would just constantly force pushing each other back and forth, So
right.
I don't know that they've ever, at least in canon, gone through the intricacies and how the mechanics of how that works, but you don't see it very often. We got to see Maul do it to Kenobi when he pushes him off the edge there in the Phantom Menace, but she does it to him. And so maybe that was her truly showing her potential. Maybe he got her angry enough to the point where she was able to do that, or he could have just playing possum where he allowed her to do that so she could feel powerful and she could feel angry or feel powerful based on the anger and the emotions that she had. Either way, she's about to run off, and then Maul does that last thing where he just pulls it right out of her hand. Like, I'm not going to let you have that. Of course, that's my saber. And he says, I'm going to need that back. Yep. Devin. Now, the fact that he said her name, I'm like, wait a second. I don't remember him ever learning her name. So I don't know where he's got this information. So maybe it's somebody in the police force itself that he's got. He may have somebody in the police force that works for him. And I only say that because, let me be very clear here. In the solicitations for the next issue of Shadow of Maul, they mentioned that Maul has some kind of somebody in the police force that's working with him, or he's got him on the payroll of some sort. So, maybe that's where he got the name from, but it certainly was probably shocking to her to hear him say her name because she's never met this guy before. And she's been a prisoner, never gave her a name. And suddenly he says that. And so he's now personalized all of this, right? So again, more manipulation stuff from him.
Yeah, I think that I honestly think that Devin actually caught him with the force push, but that was what he wanted. He probably wanted that to happen, but he didn't know like when it was going to happen. So I think based off how the animators had Maul's body move, it looked like she caught him, like, and then he was able to like recover. And I think that's what he wanted. He wanted to get, and you said it, he wanted her to take that first step to the dark side, and getting her riled up and angry and frustrated, because again, she's attached to what she thought she should be, and she's never going to be that, and played right to her emotions. But then again, you see her take that step back, like as she's able, she has that free path to walk out of there. It's kind of like, again, this was from the body language and the facial features of Devin. In animation, it looked like she was able to just maybe it was like a Luke moment when he was facing Vader and getting ready to strike him down, and then looks at his hand and kind of just takes a breath and okay. It looks
Yeah.
that's kind of like what she did to me anyway. And then, Maul just easily snaps his saber back with the Force, and then away she goes. And then we're off to the next episode.
And that is, yeah. So I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of run with the breakdown of the second episode. That'll help me too. So thank you.
Oh, no problem. So we open up the next episode, and I'm gonna actually go out on a limb and said I thought what was happening was like legit, and the reason why I say that is because of what I saw, and I'm going to get into that right now. So essentially, Vario makes a meeting with the head of the Pikes. What was his name? Krim.
Mark
and Mark Krim. He gets there and he comes out, and they have a banter, and then all of a sudden we see Maul, and we see his lightsaber ignite, and he's blocking laser bolts, and he's able to kill a couple Pikes.
He never blocked the bolt.
I thought he did.
No.
I thought he blocked a couple. Not all. I thought he blocked a couple.
I'll have to go back and watch it. But when I saw it, I was like, why is he not blocking bolts? That's what gave it away for me. But go on.
He missed a couple, but I didn't notice that because I was like, oh, what is Maul going to do here? And then what happens is he comes like he's going to take Krim out, and Vario stuns him like 6 times. And then Maul drops. And then I was like, yeah, that's not him. Yeah. And it turns out to be Icarus.
It's probably Icarus. I don't know if they ever showed like who it was, but
it was one of the Zarbok. I think it was
Scorn or Icarus, one of the two.
Yeah, Scorn or Icarus. I don't know which one, but it's him. And then we see the real Maul, and he comes out and he ends up taking out everybody. And he takes out Krim and then gives him a speech about how, hey, you betrayed me, so this is what happens. And then he names the Pike captain Colt as the new leader of the Pikes, but he serves him. So that's Maul's next big step into becoming the crime lord that we kind of see in Solo. He's now in control of the Pikes, which is, we followed them through, the animated series. We've obviously seen them in the Book of Boba Fett. We know they're big, and at this point, they belong to Maul. So that's where that scene ends. Then we go back to Janix, and Devin and Master Daki meet up again, and Daki expresses his happiness that they were able to reunite and she's safe. He checks her wrist and he says he's okay. But then he says, hey, we got to get off this planet. It's too hot. Essentially, with Maul running loose. And obviously we have, and I think he kind of referred to Lawson as, being, someone that could attract attention. He's like, hey, we got to get out of here. And Devin's like, no, isn't it our job to, protect the innocents? If Maul stays here and is allowed to do what he's going to do, he can, kill a lot of people on this planet.
Yeah.
And so he, Master Daki actually says, okay, I think I agree with you. You're right. But they want to get Maul out of the picture so that the heat dies down so that the Empire doesn't show up. It's not necessarily, at least that's what I got from their interaction is, and that's why I think Daki agrees. Yes, we have to take the Maul piece off the board because that will save lives. But I think his main motive is to get him off the board so that way the heat dies down and the Empire doesn't show up to Janix.
Yeah.
So he agrees and he ends up sending the location because he knows where Maul's hideout is, sends the location to Lawson. And so he goes to the chief and she says, yes, it approves the raid. Two Boots comes up and says, hey, we're not going to win this. We're not ready for this. We need to contact the Empire. And Lawson's trying to convince him, hey, don't do it. But at this point, it's like Two Boots has shut him out. So he had no choice but to turn him off.
Yeah.
He deactivated him in that booth. Like if you see the headquarters, there's like a communications booth, and you could see the dials start and the panel starts to light up. And like in the middle of that, he deactivates him and apologizes while he's deactivated for doing that. So he goes out, he gets his strike force ready to go, and then they end up going to Maul's hideout. But initially, it looks like no one's there. Then as stuff starts to happen, stuff starts to move, they actually corner his squad, and I believe it was a Rook who actually presented a hologram communicator, and Maul comes up in a hologram and says, hey, if you let me do what I need to do on Janix, I will make sure that I will protect you. This is the thing that caught my eye. He said, I will protect you, and or not my eye, my ear, I should say. And I will keep the peace if you let me do what I need to do. And of course, Lawson says, yeah, I can't take that deal. So this big fight breaks out.
Do you think he considered that at all?
No.
No? Okay.
No. And the reason why
he kind of hesitated, and I thought, is he considering it?
No, I think that was just him. That was his ego playing with Maul, saying like, "Well, no, I'm not going to take your offer. It's not
a dumb
good
offer
for me. It's a dumb offer. It's not good for me."
Yeah.
So then a firefight breaks out between Maul's people and his strike force, and people droids start to get shot down and whatnot. But then Daki and Devin arrive and they corner Maul. And this again is these scenes where between the saber fight between Maul, Devin, and Daki, the best animation I've ever seen from Lucasfilm Animation. It was amazing. I actually watched that whole scene like 3 times in a row because it was so good. But I learned a couple things. One is I don't think Daki, in his time as a Jedi Master, when the Jedi were, relevant and, we had the temple and whatnot, I don't think I don't think his purpose as a Jedi Master was to be a lightsaber swordsman. I think he had other callings, and he is proficient with a lightsaber.
They all have to be proficient. That's part
exactly.
of it. We learned that in the High Republic officially, by the way.
Right. I do think he's proficient, but to take on someone like Maul, who that's really all he is the dark side of the Force with a lightsaber, he wasn't ready. Although he was the only one able to land anything damaging. He damaged one of Maul's legs.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately Maul gets the upper hand over Daki and is about to slay him, but then Maul, Devin comes up out of nowhere, similar to kind of how Anakin saved Obi-Wan from Count Dooku in episode 2. He just comes out of nowhere, blocks his strike, and says something to the like, oh, I'm sure your master is going to really appreciate what you're doing. But it wasn't just, and I think why Maul said that, it wasn't just because she was there to save Daki. At the same time, because she blocked that strike, he was able to notice that, hey, here come more police forces, and before we know it, we're going to be outnumbered, and it's not going to be good. So it gave him the insight to be like, okay, I need to bounce. And so Maul takes off, and it allows him to leave. But I think that's what he was saying is like, hey, your master will appreciate you. Not only talking about Daki, but talking about himself potentially in the future.
Yeah.
And then the reinforcements arrive. Lawson ends up talking with Devin, and then he's like, you're Jedi. Why didn't you tell me? And it's like, hey, we're trying to keep a low profile. But
right.
the thing is, though, is that as he hears the sirens, Lawson tells them to get lost, because I think he knows, and I think he knows what the Jedi have been through, and I think he knows why the Jedi keep a low profile. And the reason why I say that is because, he was a bounty hunter, you learn things in your travels. Plus, he's familiar with the Clone Wars. He said that in episode 1 of the series. So he knows that if they stay there too long, and if they're actually questioned by the police over the incident, that could out them. So he tells them to essentially leave. Then Two Boots arrives with the reinforcements, and he apologizes to Two Boots for deactivating him. Two Boots says, "I forgive you, and I hope you can forgive me." And that's when we see the Star Destroyer coming into the atmosphere of Janix, and that's where the episode ends.
Yeah.
Why?
Right. I saw a lot of people really upset. Like, oh my God, why do you end it right there?
Exactly. At least give us like some landing ships, troop carriers, something. Just the Star Destroyer entering the atmosphere and fade to black.
Yeah.
Oh man, but that was an amazing episode. I loved it. I think that's episode 4 is by far the best episode.
Yeah, I would agree.
All of them are great, but I think that one was the best episode so far. And if we continue this trend, Albert, we're going to get a lot of good Star Wars here over these next 6 remaining episodes, because I think we're in for a real treat. I'm really excited.
Yeah, when you think about it too, just on that note, and I've got some other thoughts here, but when you think about it, when we get to episode 5, after episode 5, we're halfway through the series at that point, which is kind of nuts to think about. And we'll be past the halfway mark by the time, this time next week. So, it's going to get pretty fast and furious. No, I shouldn't have used that word, but it's going to get, it's going to accelerate based on everything. And it's going to feel like a pressure cooker, but just because of the way things are starting to play out here. So, I got a couple of questions for you. I went back first. By the way, I went back and looked at it. I don't see him block any lightsabers or any
blasters.
Yeah, he doesn't actually block any. I was watching the scene just now. They cut away though. They show like the Pikes shooting, and then it goes and cuts to Vario, and you can see the flashes behind him, but it doesn't actually show him blocking the lightsabers. And the only reason I even point that out is because when this happened, when I was watching, I was like, "That's not Maul." He would have been like. He would have been blocking lightsaber bolts and doing all that stuff, and he wasn't really doing all. I mean, he was cutting these people down.
Yeah.
So it was a cool ruse, and I like the fact that Maul came in. When Maul actually does show up, though, and he lays all those people to waste, and also the way he kills Krim, I thought was pretty sick. Kind of, it was very similar to Snoke, right? And igniting the lightsaber and pulling it towards him, kind of thing. That was pretty brutal. The way he just cut him in half. Never would have thought that we would see that. That Maul was the reason that Krim doesn't exist anymore, because Krim's been around since the Clone Wars, like the episodes of the Clone Wars. So
and we don't hear from him. Yeah, we don't hear from him. Yeah.
Right, because that's a leader. So you're right. Like that's the first group, right? Maybe throughout the rest of the series, he's going to go after Black Sun, and we'll get to see him go after. I don't know who the other ones are now, but maybe or Crimson Dawn. I guess no, Crimson Dawn's with them already. But maybe we'll get to see him kind of take over these different crime organizations one by one and really kind of pull them all under his umbrella.
Yeah, I think Crimson Dawn is still its own thing. Black Sun is still its own thing. I think at least for this series, Maul's group is the Shadow Collective.
Shadow Collective, yeah.
And so now he runs the Pikes. And I think the next organizations that we'll see probably throughout the entire run of this show, I don't think we have enough shows left for him to take over everything, right? I think he'll start to target Crimson Dawn and then Black Sun, and then obviously you have the Empire here now that he has to deal with as well. He's going to get it from all angles. And as far as Icarus, and not maybe I was just so excited it created my Mandela effect, and that's just what I thought I saw.
Right. You mentioned also about Lawson letting them go at the very end. I mean, there are people that just simply cannot believe the narrative that the Jedi suddenly were the bad guys. I know Palpatine sold that. He had the Senate in his back pocket. They were propagating that, right? It was a lot of propaganda that was happening to get that message out there. And they certainly convinced a lot of people that the Jedi were corrupt and they took down the Republic and that they're the reason why for all of this, right? I get that. But there are a lot of people out there that who I think like Lawson, who are like, that just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like, there's no way you're going to ever convince me that that's the case. And to me, when he does that and lets them go, part of it is you're right. Like, he just had that conversation with them. They both agree that they don't want the Empire there. But I think for him, it's like, no, you guys are the good guys. Like, I get it. I acknowledge that you are the good guys. you kind of are like the Batman, the vigilantes right now, and I don't want the police force coming down on you guys because it's going to lock you up, or worse, the Empire is going to show up and you're gone, kind of thing. And so that I think he allows him to kind of leave, and for those reasons as well. Going back to the fight, Donkey gets that that little kick in, right? He kicks him in the ankle there, or in the knee.
The knee, yeah.
And that's kind of what takes him out. And it shows up a little bit later. Like it actually it impacts Maul when he's trying to chase him. I forget the scene or whatever it is, but there's something that he feels it, or he doesn't feel it. It's a robotic leg, but it certainly impacts.
It kind of buckles. It kind of buckles a bit.
Yeah.
That's what happens. Yeah.
So I had a question for you too, because, I don't know that, and I don't want to be, I'm not trying to be controversial, but I feel like Maul is amazing here. Right. But is this prime Maul? I don't think so.
No.
Like this is not Prime Maul was Phantom Menace and right, and leading up into that. And so we have to acknowledge that this is Maul who is doing his best with these robotic legs. He's not in his prime anymore. You can see him starting to gradually get older. By the time we get to Solo, he looks older. I mean, he definitely looks older. And by the time we get to Rebels, he looks, kind of thin and frail now again. So we do have to acknowledge that. Yes, I would agree. I don't know that Donkey is, he was a master swordsman by any means. He could have just been proficient, as all Jedi were, with the lightsaber. He might have been doing other things, but he definitely was able to hold his own against Maul. And part of that was because Devin was there. But, it's interesting because when I think about the Crow showing up and Marok showing up, if they're going after Maul, like those are the fights that I'm really excited to see. But I am wondering if we're going to see some vulnerability from Maul in those fights, which is fine. Like I can see, we called him the cockroach of Star Wars. Right. I would like to see Maul get his butt handed to him, but still come out ahead, right? Just kind of be that savage warrior in there for the fight. Impossible to take down, but still vulnerable. I think that would be a good dimension to see Maul in. And so maybe this is just kind of that first part of it that we're seeing, that there are chinks in the armor, if you will.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Go back to Maul not being his prime. I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. If you're cut in half, you're not going to be in your prime. Okay, so no, and it's comparable to like Vader and George Lucas actually said this during the prequels. Is like, how come Anakin is this whirling dervish of a lightsaber swordsman, and then in the original trilogy, we see Vader, hacking and slashing and not really doing the stuff that Anakin Skywalker did. It's like, well, first of all, that's not Anakin Skywalker. That's Darth Vader. And second of all, he's like 2/3, cyborg and
more machine than man.
More machine than man. Exactly. So you're not going to have those movements. So he's powerful and dominates in other ways, and that's kind of like what Maul has done. I know he's just based off of what we've seen him do in the Phantom Menace, which I know it's live action and we're animated. I know, I'm just saying, we've seen him adapt to having, the cybernetic legs, and his fighting has adapted. It has to, or else, he would have been cut down again, ages ago. But yeah, as far as when the Inquisitors show up, and I know you had mentioned that it would be good to kind of see him get his butt handed to him. I wouldn't like be disappointed if I saw that. That's me, and I think that right now, and again, I know the episodes are done, and what we're going to see is what we're going to see, but the hype around Maul is just huge, and to the point where Maul has to stay Maul. I think if he's knocked down a notch, it could cause some frustration in a part of the Star Wars fandom, because they want to see Maul be all powerful, and that's what this series is kind of hyping him up to be. Is just this all powerful, bad dude who's just trying to get his footing back in the galaxy and take out the people that had done him wrong. But I think that if an Inquisitor comes up, especially Inquisitors that we've seen get struck down already, and they do something to take out Maul, or severely injure him, or what, I think that might leave a bad taste. Really, I think the only character that the fandom would be 100% happy with taking Maul down or seriously injuring him is Darth Vader. Yeah. That's it. I think.
I want to be clear. Like I'm not advocating for him or saying that he's going to be like taken down, but I would like to see him be vulnerable. Like I would like to see them actually put up a fight and get some shots on him of some sort, right? Or put him in some hard spots. Just because I like the fact that this isn't a perfect Maul and that he wins other ways. Like he may have to rely on, just he's not a one-man show. In fact, this goes back to the interviews and some of the stuff that was written before the series started, where they were saying that, yeah, this is Maul, but he's changed a little bit and he has to rely on his people. He's trying to do more with what he has because he can't do it all himself. I mean, if that was the case, he would be just going and knocking on the door of, Palpatine's Senate room, right? Or what was it, the Jedi Hall, or whatever the hell it was called. So yeah, I can see that I'd like to see him get
like see him challenged.
Have him challenged. Thank you.
Challenged, yeah. And that's I'm good with that too, because if he was just like mowing everybody down, while it would be awesome to see and people would probably really dig it and give it good reviews and just hype up the series and whatnot because of other aspects as well, it would get kind of boring, right? Because we already know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I think if he's, I think what we're going to see is we're going to see him being challenged, not just by the Inquisitors that show up to try to take him down, but I don't think we've seen the last duel between him and Devin and Master Daki. I think we're going to see another one. Could it be like at the end it culminates with those three taking on the two Inquisitors? I don't know, but I do think that those three are going to clash again, along with Maul and the Inquisitors, along with Devin and Daki and the Inquisitors. I think we're going to get a lot of lightsabers here in these last 6 episodes.
I just want to also point out to you that fight when Maul and Daki are fighting in the scaffolding. That was really neat visually to see, because every time they were cutting those pipes, all the structure around them, which is really visually appealing to see. There's a part of me too that when he stands there and he's kind of standing, he's at the very top. This is after Daki falls down. He's kind of looking down at Daki. He kind of takes a moment before he jumps in, and I almost wonder if he was biding time to allow Devin to go in and make that stop. Like to me, it feels like that would play into what he's trying to say is, look how powerful you are. You stopped this. You prevented this. There's so much potential to you. But I would be fine too if it was really just timing and arrogance on his part that allowed her to go and step in.
Look what he did on Naboo. It's like his thing, I guess.
Right. Taunting them. Yeah.
Taunting. Yeah, exactly. So, and then, losing the upper hand.
I don't mind so I know there were a lot of people that were unhappy with the way this episode ended. But I actually liked it. Like to me, that is, Dale had it here. Leave him wanting more is what he said there at the very end. Cause it's just, especially if this was an episodic type series, then fine. I get it. I'd be the same way. I'd be like, oh crap. Cause now we're going to get some exposition. We got to get back into things. But this series so far just seems to continue to pick up right where it left off. And so while it does kind of leave a cliffhanger, I don't mind the fact that we're going to jump right back into it. The Empire's here. They're going to have to be contended with, and we'll have to see what that looks like going forward. Maybe we can kind of talk about just one other thing too. A lot of feedback that I've seen here recently, as I was laying on my deathbed, I saw a lot of feedback from people saying, like, I love this series. It's wonderful. Everything that we've talked about, glowing reviews. However, I don't like the fact that it's 22 minutes per episode. And why don't you just do a full 1 hour of these episodes? I don't have an opinion. I think I had a stronger opinion of this back when Disney Plus launched. And what we've always said in the show is you can't look at this as syndicated television or television in the traditional sense that we kind of grew up with before the onset of Netflix and things premiering and not having advertisements for, paid services. It's a whole different ball game these days, right?
Right.
No one, at the end of the day, these decisions are usually go above the heads of the creators. These are executive decisions that happen. They're made because they want people to hold on to subs. And if you put out an entire series and let's say you do it 1 hour, I would agree. Yes, it would change maybe the tone of it or the way we consume it would be different. And maybe I'd love it more. I'm not saying I wouldn't. However, we do have to understand that it is a business, and whether you like it or not, they're going to do what they need to do to ensure that they can prolong this as much as they can, because the longer they keep you in suspense and the longer you keep coming back every week, the more you're holding on to that sub, right? They can show that sustainability of subscriptions. And that's really what it boils down to. It's just crazy to me that people are always thinking like, oh, this is a Dave Filoni decision, or this was a decision by the writers. Like, how dare they do this? They're just, no, it's not. It's they're working within the confines that have been given to them by the executives and by the corporate people.
And see, here's the thing. Did you complain when a Rebels episode was 30 minutes long and had 22 to 25 minutes of actual show
commercials?
You had the commercials. Here's what I think. Here's what I think. They're writing it like the other animated shows, which were all 30 minutes in length with commercials. And I just said that, a lot of those 30-minute shows, whether they're animated or live or whatever, they are either the actual show of what takes up that 30 minutes is 22 to 25 minutes. The episodes have been around 22 to 25 minutes.
Yep. Right on there.
You know what they're doing? They are that long because eventually, and they've done this before. They did it with Andor with a couple of episodes. It's going to be shown on television, whether it's ABC or the Disney Channel, probably ABC. But I think eventually it's going to be like a limited run thing that they'll do occasionally with Disney Plus shows. It's going to show up on a network television channel. Like I said, most likely ABC. But that's what it screamed to me when I saw the episode links of like, yeah, they made them that long because it needs to fit into a 30-minute window on network TV.
Yeah, and if nothing else, like even if they don't do that, at least they put themselves in a position that they could do it if they ever wanted.
Right,
to,
exactly.
So why not just plan for that? Dale brings up another good point too. That it's been on the back of my mind. Do you want filler or do you want good writing? This series has no filler, quote filler. Like I love the filler, and I can get into the reasons why. Or if you've listened to the show, you understand the reasons why. But it doesn't make sense for every show. And so far, this series is very, very lean. Like it's the leanest I think we've had in a very long time. So I don't know. You can't have it both ways, man. So sorry to hear that.
No, I would say that anything that could be considered filler that we've seen in these first 4 episodes, I think what transpires in those scenes, and what I'm talking about is like the interaction between that happened between Two Boots and Lawson, the interaction between Lawson and his son. I think that those, if in my opinion, if anything could be considered filler, it's those interactions, right? Not when Two Boots and Lawson are out in the field. No, not that. I'm talking about when they have banter back and forth.
Right. But when they have coffee.
Exactly. I do think those interactions are going to play a part in this series. And so it's not filler. So yeah, I agree with you, Albert. It's been very lean with anything that's non-essential. Even the in episode 1 where Adaki is telling Devin not to steal. It plays into her mindset. That is a vital scene, in my opinion, where it could be considered filler as just like trying to, waste some time or fill a couple minutes. No, that is important. So I don't see any filler in this at all. I think everything is going to come to a head and play a part in the series. Maybe not this season, but potentially next season.
Yeah, Paisley said, yes, the challenge of balancing the art of creativity with the business, something that they've been trying to do since 2015, and it's changed if you think about it, right? They've taken different approaches to when they release them and times that they release and how many are released at a time. And, it's because they're trying to figure this out, and it's kind of a moving target at times too. And I'm not being apologetic here. That's just the nature of the business. It's not exclusive to Disney. This is what all the streaming services are constantly struggling with.
And another thing, we've talked about it multiple times about this show, how the release cadence is different from the past Star Wars shows. So they're doing it for a reason. And we just don't know what it is. As far as the release cadence, they're doing it for a reason. As far as the episode length, they're doing it for a reason. We just don't know what it is. But everyone should have some solace to know that it is for a reason. And just accept what we have. As far as the ending
Maximus, are you not entertained?
Exactly. As far as the ending, yeah, I accepted it and I thought it was the right ending. I just didn't like it. Because I wanted more.
Oh, I know. I get it.
So I'm not one of those
they hype you up, they put you on an adrenaline rush, and then just cut it and go, guess who's here?
Exactly.
Dad's
Well,
home.
as soon as Two Boots said, "I hope you can forgive me," I was like, that's it. And then I heard, you hear the engines or the engines of the star coming up, and I was like, oh no.
Did they play? It's been a while. I haven't seen it since Monday night, I think, But did they play the
Imperial March?
Imperial March?
I don't think so.
Okay, I could have sworn that I heard a variation of it. Maybe not.
It might be.
Either way, they don't need to.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know what that looks like. You show the back of it, and we all know, holy crap, things are about to change in a major way. So, a couple more comments here. We can wrap things up. One Up versus CPU says they do make them in a way that they could put this on TV with commercials someday. He said this, I think, while you were saying it, actually. Who knows what will happen with streaming and ads and all that. So, again, they're putting themselves in a position for that to happen. Rob, my Star Wars guy, says those quote filler scenes are character building scenes. Yes, 100%. Exactly. And it all matters, even though if you don't get it, then, sorry, but it matters. And that's why they need to be there. And then One Up says they release it on Monday so that they don't interfere with Daredevil numbers. That's true. Like, we got to remember, Disney is, they don't want to compete with themselves. They don't want to cut their own throats, when they're trying to get viewers for multiple shows. And, quite honestly, a lot of the people that are potentially, in the demographic to watch this show, they're watching the Daredevil episodes that are coming out too. So, they want to make sure that they're playing, again, not hurting themselves or shooting themselves in the foot.
Well, I can't agree with that, but I remember Feige saying that when they set a release they're not worried about any other show on that service.
Yeah, so, but that was when they were at the highest.
No. It was when a couple of their shows flopped, and he was put on the spot, and he was like, well, should you mind, we know you take mind for, like, when other services, I think, I forgot what was it Invincible? I don't remember. The interviewer mentioned other popular, pop culture sci-fi series that are on streaming services. And he's like, well, yeah, we take mind with that. But as far as our own stuff, we think that, person A is either going to watch both of them on the same day, or person A is not interested in this content, but is interested in the other content. They're going to watch it anyway. So they said that within Disney Plus, they're not really worried about when they release it. But that was maybe a year or two ago. Again, this is when Marvel was flopping on Disney Plus. Maybe it was more than that, because I think that interview came out a little bit after She-Hulk. Okay. But anyway, that's what Feige said, and that doesn't mean that's what Disney's exec think. That doesn't mean that's what David Filoni thinks. That's just what Feige said. So it's just, I don't want to say that what Feige said is gospel, but it's just food for thought.
Yep. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. Kind of, I guess, give me your thoughts on what are you looking forward to most in these next two episodes coming up.
So I'm looking forward to where Devin and Master Doc are going to play in this. Now that the Empire is there, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of Doc saying, hey, we need to either get the heck off this planet, or we need to bury ourselves until this blows over. Devin is probably going to be like, no, we have to try to help Lawson capture Maul. Not to mention, now we have Maul having to concern himself with the Empire and the two Inquisitors.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's running the Pikes now. And now what is he going to do with Vario? Because, Vario has been like his pawn, has actually gotten him to where he is right now. He's actually been a very useful pawn. So let's see where he can use Vario somewhere else. And, are we going to see like the beginning of him trying to take down someone else that did him wrong in the past?
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking forward to. I know we're going to see a lot of Gen 1 Stormies again, like the ones we saw in, was it not Rebels, but yeah, it was Rebels at the beginning of Rebels, with the different helmets and whatnot.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Gen 1 Storm. I call them Gen 1, I guess anyone can call them something else, T, whatever. We're going to see those. It'll be cool to see those again. And I just want to see what the dynamic is now that the Empire is on Janix, and that's exactly what everyone did not want. And now I'm curious to see how they'll react with having the Empire there.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're, the next episode is called Inquisition. So
obviously,
yeah, I mean, that's what I'm looking forward to, is that I want to see the Inquisitors show up. I want to see how that changes the dynamic of everything. It's almost like the FBI showing up to a crime scene. They're just going to take over, and everybody's jurisdiction is crap. Nobody cares. people are going to probably die. We're going to see the horrible Empire and do some horrible things. That's all ripe for not only, making everybody from the police folks uncomfortable, but then the crime syndicates uncomfortable, and the Jedi that are hiding there are going to be uncomfortable. So they're going to expose a lot of that as they come through. Now, I suspect they will be searching for, like, it's like if I'm an Inquisitor and I show up to this planet and I was called because there's a person running around with a lightsaber that's a red lightsaber. I suspect they're there to look for Maul. But then you hear that there's also Jedi here as well, right? So then it becomes like, okay, so which is more appeasing? Do we go after the Jedi? Do we go after Maul? Do we go after both? Maybe they split up. Maybe the Crow goes after the Jedi, and you've got Marok going after Maul, because I think at one point we see them fight, Marok and Maul, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe the Crow's taking those down, so they may split up their forces. But chapter 6 is called Night of the Hunted. So based on that title, I would suspect that yes, they are going to be hunted. All of these folks are going to be hunted, right, by the Inquisitors and the Stormtroopers that have shown up. So
I think actually now, because see, here's the thing: Two Boots doesn't know that there's Jedi there, because Lawson just discovered that there was Jedi and he sent them off. So Two Boots doesn't know. So I think the Empire is going to be there only looking for Maul. Now, how they find out there's Jedi there is going to be is something that I want to know, and should be a vital part of the story, because it's like, does Maul give them up, or do they see them, or maybe Lawson spits it out or somewhere. I'm curious to find out how the Empire knows that Devin and Master Daki exist and are there on Janix.
Maybe Vario is the one who switches side again, right? He seems to be going with whoever's in power just to stay alive. And so, maybe he decides to go tell the Empire, like, hey, I know you guys are after Maul, but, I got some information about where these other two Jedi are, that these two Jedi exist, kind of thing. So, similar like a Lex Luthor in Superman 2. If you get that reference again.
I do get that reference. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. You were safe in there and the lights are all on up here. Yeah.
I just meant like he's constantly switching sides. He's just what did Superman call him? Called him a rat, or
it was a rat or something, but
he keeps double crossing everybody.
Exactly. But then at the end, Superman uses that double cross against him.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, I'm glad we got that out of there. So,
yes.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Again, just to quickly mention that we've got the Maul comic breakdown episode coming up on Sunday. We'll be back on Monday night to break down these next two episodes that we're both looking forward to. And then also want to say thank you to everybody that joined us at the live stream. Again, apologies for the reschedule on this one, but Alex was with us, One Up versus CPU. Rob, my Star Wars guys, showed up. JJ Skywalker back again. Paisley made it here. You didn't miss much Paisley at the very beginning, so don't sweat it. Dale came in there at the very end. And I think that's everyone. If I miss anybody else, please excuse me. My apologies for that. Not intentional. And then, I don't know. I guess that's it. Do we have anything else, Chris? Any final thoughts or words before we buckle this one up and get out of here?
So, yeah, we're in the middle of this big train and of Maul hype. And so far, what I've seen, and a lot of most fans agree, it's amazing. So yeah, let's buckle up for this second half. I can't believe we're already talking. Hey, we're on the downside now, and also with the two episodes that we have coming up here on Katina Cast. The Maul comic breakdown, and then the breakdown of episode 5 and 6. Again, be on the lookout for the Road to Celebration series and on when that's going to start, because we believe that that hype train is going to start very soon, because now we're less than a year away from the event. I'm a big Star Wars Celebration person. I don't know if I've said this on the show or not, but I've been to every stateside celebration and one international celebration. So it's a special event for me. And I'm going to really enjoy breaking down how you can get the best experience at Star Wars Celebration with Albert. And then some of my guys from my celebration crew, we're going to bring them on as guest hosts, I guess you could say, and they're going to give them their insights on their particular area of expertise when it comes to trying to get the most out of Star Wars Celebration. So look for that to come very soon.
Yeah, these are subject matter experts on Star Wars Celebration. Trust me. So you don't want to miss it, especially if you're planning on going or you're thinking about going. they will give you all the inside information and intel that you need to make a good decision. So,
and real quick, Paisley, thank you for your comment. Thank you for your concern. I will say though that the voting is more on me trying to eat a bowl of that cereal. So I'm going to give it about a week, and then I'm going to actually put another video up of me doing whatever the voting says I should do. So no promises, but hopefully it's not bad enough to where it'll actually make me sick. But stay tuned.
Yeah. So real quick. All right. Since you opened it up, for context, what happened was Chris he got a box of cereal as a gift at a White Elephant / White Bantha party that we went to. I was there for that party. And I remember when you got that box, and I told you, I was like, eat it. You're fine. I know it's Mandalorian Grogu cereal and it expired like 2 or 3 years ago.
No. It expired in 2021.
Okay, whatever. 4 years. Come on. 5 years. What's 4 or 5 years? It's fine. That stuff has a half-life of like 1,000 years because of all the preservatives in it. So you're totally good. My vote is to eat it. But Paisley, again, I'm with you. I know a lot of people have been saying don't eat the cereal, but eat the cereal. Eat the cereal. We'll start that chant too. So
we'll start that chant. Yeah. Like I said, the votes are leaning toward actually kind of heavily to eat the cereal. So I think I'm going to eat the cereal, and I'll have a video of me eating the cereal. Cereal's like tricky. You can eat it 10 years later, it won't hurt you.
I'm telling you, it's true. It's true. So
thanks, Dale. That's good encouragement. All right, we can end there.
All right, guys. We'll see you here on the next episode.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.